and welcome. Welcome indeed to our 5 o'clock session. I'm Ruby Kaur. I'm your host for today. I'm a Chief Enterprise Architect working in the financial services. So, really delighted to host this webinar today. As Freddie says, it's brought to you from the BCS, the Digital Divide Specialist Group, of which I am the Inclusion Officer. So, I pay special attention to this because it's all about inclusion, which includes financial inclusion as well. Now, we have a really exciting set of speakers for you today, our panelists, which I'm really excited to introduce you to in a few moments. But before I do, I just want to throw a few numbers at you. Lloyds Banking Group produces the Consumer Digital Index every year, and it's about to be republished in November. But a few statistics for you. 14 million people in the UK have low digital engagement. That's a huge number. 14 million people, low digital engagement. 11 million people in the UK struggle with financial capability. So, in other words, is there a correlation between being digitally excluded and financially excluded as well? So, that's the question I'm hoping we together will unpack with our panelists. So, let's meet our panelists. And what I'd like to do, we have Penny, we have David, and we have Freddie, who you've just met, but let's get to know them a little bit better. So, can I ask Penny, could you please give us a little intro to yourself and your specialist subject in terms of why you're interested in this subject,
Yeah,
Penny?
absolutely. Thank you. And thank you guys for inviting us to this today. It's a real honor to get involved in this really hot topic. I'm Penny Roberts and a co-founder and director of partnerships for Bankability. I am an entrepreneur, but where this started out from was 4 years ago. Our inspiration is our son, Charlie. And it came clear to us that Charlie, being dyslexic and autistic, was terrified of banking online and just couldn't face it. It made him too anxious. So really, in a nutshell, he is our inspiration, and he gave us this idea to do something about it. And as parents and entrepreneurs, it actually makes us quite unstoppable.
Absolutely love that. What a lovely intro. Thank you, Penny, and thank you for taking the time to join us as well. I'm going to hand over to David next. David, welcome, and please introduce yourself as well.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me and also Penny. I'm David Agar. I'm the CEO and other co-founder for Bankability. And as Penny said, our son is our inspiration here. I've been in the fintech space for quite a few years. And when I first came across the challenges that my son was having, I thought, well, this is kind of like quite interesting. I'll just do a little bit of digging around just to see what the issues are and see if there's anything that I can do to assist. And the more I dug, kind of like the more scary it got in terms of the numbers of people who were being adversely impacted on. When I looked at what the banks were doing, in particular, because my son was trying to open an account at the time, I could quickly see that the approach was very much kind of a linear approach to make solutions fit for most people. But I'm thinking about, well, okay, but my son's not like most people. So what about people like my son? And 4 years later, here we are.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, David. And finally, to yourself, Freddie, you've done a quick intro already, but in particular with financial inclusion, what's your specific area in this?
Yeah, so thank you, Ruby. You know my relationship with BCS, but I'm a technology leader. Technologies, I've been in many different industry sectors. And I'm not sort of ashamed, but I used to be. I'm not ashamed to admit that for a long time, I could only see one world. And that world is that I've got this skill, and my skill is to get everybody online. And if you're not online, it's probably you, not me, right? So my job is just to create solutions that get everybody online. And it's only after I got involved with, this agenda with BCS, I realized that, wow, this is such a huge topic. It affects so many people in so many different ways, from the older people to the younger people. And last year, delighted that thanks to David and Penny, I got involved in a number of things with them, and one of them was this event that was hosted by Nationwide and others. And that was the first time that we properly connect with the financial exclusion or inclusion community. And I'm so delighted that we now have a chance to really shine a torch on this area, this segment of the population that many of us don't understand. I would say I still don't understand. I'm trying my best. And one of the ways that I'm understanding is by getting involved. So thank you to Penny and David. I'm on their board of advisors. I'm helping them to build a tool that helps us to solve this problem. So that's my connection with that.
Amazing. Thank you, Freddie. Again, I just want to remind everyone on the chat, please do post any comments, please do post any questions you have. And Freddie's done a good thing about just saying, please say hello, who you are. We've got quite a varied audience, so we'd love to get to know you quite deeply as well on this subject. So please do post questions. So let's set the scene then, guys, if that's okay with you. Financial inclusion is a big topic. Okay, so I wonder if we can set the scene. What does the definition of financial inclusion mean to you? And I know we've covered it slightly, but can we go a little bit more in depth? What are you seeing in the industry? What are you seeing with the tech companies? Where are you seeing exclusion specifically happen? And we don't want to come onto solutions and challenges yet, but could we define it? Is there any way you could define? Can I go to yourself, Freddie, first on this, please? You're first, yes.
I'm probably the least qualified.
Okay.
But from learning from David and Penny, and this is a real life example, I take it for granted that any one of us can use an online banking app to make payments. But what I've learned is there are many who cannot do that. So for me, that is
Yeah.
not financial inclusion. As
Yeah.
simple as that.
Okay. So do you see it as being more than just opening a bank account? Is it more than that? Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Good. We'll get into more of a discussion on what the definition is and see how we splinter off in our ideas of what it is. So, Penny, can you share with us what do you see as the definition of financial inclusion, especially when you've talked very emotionally about your son as well? Can you really pinpoint as a whole and as a collective in terms of
Yeah,
financial inclusion?
I think it's simplicity itself. It's allowing anybody from any walk of life, whatever skills or additional needs they have, or age or whatever, everybody has the same human right to be able to get to trust and use financial services easily without stress.
Okay. Yeah. So if I probe that a little further, do you think the problem is compounded further? Now, I've been working for a bank. I've been working in the banking industry. Banks are moving more and more, not towards just digital, but also mobile digital as well. Does this compound the problem further, or does it act as a kind of an accelerator to find solutions?
It's just another barrier. There's barriers popping up everywhere, every day. Every 5 minutes that goes by, these barriers are getting bigger. And that's why we have to break down the barriers, because it's cruel. I remember explaining I met a guy at an exhibition a couple of years ago, and he asked me what we did, so I started to explain it, and I could see he just zoned out. And then he rang me 2 weeks later and said, I thought about you the other day. And I went, really? Why? He'd had an inconvenience of having one day when his banking app, I won't say which bank, went down. One day.
Mm.
And it dawned on him how blooming inconvenient it was and how stressful it was. And that's when it resonated with him. He understood what I was talking about. And that's when we've got a fantastic team on board for advising us, because it resonates with them. They have either family members or friends or colleagues that realize that they can't do everything that everyone assumes these days. No, it's not easy. No, it's not straightforward. I don't get it. There's so much to it. It's huge. We are discovering.
Yeah. And what I read from that, we are definitely leaving people behind
Yeah.
if we're not designing for everyone and just designing for the majority here. This
It's
is where,
about designing for the 20%, the most
yeah.
challenging. And once we've got that right, which will take some time, it's okay for everybody.
Yeah, and it's also about, I see, not starting with a retrofit. We seem to be retrofitting. If we'd started right from the beginning, at the
Yeah.
concept stages of
Yeah.
designing for those people who will have needs
Yeah.
different to other people.
Yeah.
Start from the very beginning. Interesting. We'll unpack some of that a bit later as we go on with some solutions, Penny. Brilliant. David, what's your definition? Are you going to be wildly from a polar opposite direction, or are you going to converge into this? Do share, please.
Yeah. So I think it's, well, the whole DEI concept and movement is really everything that this is financial inclusion is about. So it's in particular, it's about equality. So there is no reason on this earth why one person should be able to access financial services very easily and why another person shouldn't. Now, that other person that shouldn't, that may not be able to, that might be because of, digital accessibility challenges, but it could also be because, because they are of a certain credit profile, for example, and they don't have access to the same financial services and products, regardless of the mode of delivery. So it's about equality for me. Financial inclusion is equality.
Great. Thank you, David. That was very succinct. I like that. Made a few notes. So it's a human right. It's about equality, and it must have simplicity, and it must be not an afterthought, but something that's right there and designed straight at the very start of any
Absolutely.
financial products. Very interesting. Okay. Powerful definitions, guys. Very powerful definitions. Thanks for those. If we then, we've touched on this, if we then move on to some of those challenges, because definitions are one thing, but they need to come alive. And to come alive, we need to have people involved with the coming alive of those definitions. So I want to bring in the fact that I said 11 million people in the UK struggle with financial capability, and that is compounded when they have no access or means to be digitally engaged well. So, what challenges and what are the issues, in particular the issues? And we've touched on this slightly, but if we can expand on this, what are those issues, especially with the digital divide? So, Freddie, if you don't mind, if I come to you first now, how are we compounding the problem with the digital divide for those that are financially excluded now?
So I if I can speak from the lens of, you know, the digital people, the technology people, right? We've been trained in a certain way, right? We've been trained to adopt the 80-20 rule. If it's good enough for 80%, it's good enough for everybody. And I think this is why this conversation is so interesting, because we're flipping that whole model to say it should be focusing on the 20%, because if you focus on getting it right for the 20%, everybody gets it, right? So that's one point. The other point is that, but we don't understand too about that 20%, because we assume that 20% is just another group of 20% of people. But actually, what I learned from David and Penny was that every individual person is different. So if you look at, so there's another initiative I'm involved with, right? It's called the Digital Inclusive Educational Tool. And the whole point of it is that we want to re-educate technologies, implementers and designers about the fact that using the use of digital personas, we consider that to be the 80% to be the universal design. And that's fine, because even people who has got certain conditions, guess what? They want to be part of the normal world, and therefore that 80% should apply to them. So that is not the issue. The issue is, what are we going to do about that 20%? So one final point I just want to make is that this year, it was this year, I attended the launch of the Disabilities Report by the Royal Society, and they were sort of talking us through the findings. And one of the key comments that was made was, imagine if you're designing a solution and if you don't have the right people to help you to design a solution, how do you know you will get it right? So the example they used was, don't just find somebody and blindfold them and think that they can help you to design a solution for somebody who is blind. And that is an example.
That really resonates with something I was involved in the former life at Vodafone, Freddie. We needed to make our kind of our digital switchboards for visually impaired people. And the system they'd built was very much drag and drop mouse capability. blind people, visually impaired people cannot use mice at all, okay, to be able to do what they need to do. And what we found was that visually impaired people, they do use keyboards, but they also use short codes. And I think they're called tooltips. I can't remember the name exactly. And coders use those kinds of shortcuts as well to do their work. So what we were finding was that with designing something for the visually impaired people, we're actually making life easier for other people as well, which was a revelation straight
Right.
away. And also, we'd come from the same point of view was, well, why can't we just turn on narrator, as in the tool for visually impaired people? The fact is that most visually impaired accessible people need to use JAWS, something that's built in, tools that they're used to. So we're suddenly coming with new tools, new ways of doing something, which did not fit us all at all. So key point is design at the very start, at the very initiation, the concept stages. And then we learn from each of those different demographics of how they work and how it will be. Great example is there. So just on the issues and the challenges that we face, and Penny, I'll come to you next. You're looking at potential solutions. We'll come on to the solutions, but the issues at the moment. Do you see it as a problem, just not technology? Is it an industry problem? Is it a community problem as well that you're seeing?
I think it's everything. I think it's an awareness, first of all. People don't know what they don't know unless it's impacted them in some way. And then you see it everywhere. And I feel honored to be in this space because I I see everything with different eyes now. You know, just perhaps some packaging on a can of pop or something or a bottle. They're using the same color print to put on the same color label, so you can't read it. And I don't have a vision impairment. You just think, hello, guys, think. Things are just made unnecessarily complicated for no reason whatsoever. It's everywhere. So we need to think about simple communication, really. That's what it boils down to, communication, whether it's a sign or a poster or an instruction or a request, it's the language. Absolutely the language. And now we're even not talking to each other as much as we should be, you know, so it's slipping away. Communication is everything, and more the better.
Hmm, definitely. It's simple things from what I'm hearing from you,
Yeah,
Penny. Start from the
yeah,
very simple things
yeah,
and build our way up to the bigger things that will help.
yeah.
Definitely.
I
Okay.
mean, when did life get complicated? When did it happen? It happened overnight about 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to, does the world of being online compound our problems, or does it alleviate problems? That's it works for some and it
Yeah,
helps. Like today, I caught the news where there was an announcement at the Labour conference that talked about there are now going to be digital appointments on apps. Who is that going to help? That's going to help the majority or disinclude the few again.
yeah.
That's the way it'll go. And I often think of my mother who hasn't come in, my elderly mother who hasn't disturbed me on this call. Actually, she did. How will she cope with a digital world, an online world of going to see a doctor about her ailments? That just will not work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it completely compounds the problem. Very interesting. I love that point about communication. It comes to the basics,
Mm,
what we need.
mm.
Um, David, anything to build on those excellent points we've just heard about the issues and the challenges?
I think if we look at the on the user side, on the customer side, you know, you could rattle off a whole host of specific issues such as ID verification, you know, and if you have somebody with multiple disabilities or a single disability, then it can be a real impossibility to actually go through the process of the standardized ID verification process. Things like, particularly for people who are neurodivergent, you know, to as I think somebody mentioned in one of the chats, that remembering passwords and the challenges of logging in, you know, if you can't even get in through the door, how frustrating must that be? Because it means that actually you can't easily manage your finances just in the same way that everybody else. But if we flip the coin and look at, try and ask ourselves the question, well, why is the experience like this? Well, I know that for all the great and the good people who are involved in trying to build accessible tech, the vast majority of designers and coders and all those good people, they don't necessarily have lived experience or access to people with lived experiences. And so therefore, when it comes to building a new product or a new feature, it's like, okay, guys, we've done this 1,000 times in terms of how we approach this. Let's just do it for that 1,001st time. We'll do it in the same way. So it just perpetuates the issues of inaccessibility. So it really needs, I would say, both a cultural change within organizations, and that needs to come from the very top. And secondly, in terms of how designers and coders are given training on accessibility in order to be able to say, right, well, actually, we can't just decide who we're going to help. And oh right, well we're going to go for this demographic and da. But somebody then needs to say, okay, and how accessible is this? No, not enough people are asking that question when it comes to the planning and the development and the design of the products and services and features that are used within, in particular, digital banking. But it's not exclusive to banking; it's in everything.
Absolutely.
And if I may jump in, that's
yeah.
why I refer to the fact that, the BCS and the tech sector is trying to do something about creating a digital inclusive design educational tool to educate future designers and implementers so that they understand this issue. Because if we don't educate people, we will continue to perpetuate what we know today, which is let's just keep moving as fast as possible, just get everybody online without realizing that actually some people cannot do it unless we think about their needs and address those needs in different ways, right?
Exactly, Freddie, that's a great point. And that's why we exist as the
Yeah.
BCS Digital Divide Group, to absolutely do the communication, absolutely raise the awareness, and bringing in experts as Penny and David, who speak from lived experiences through their own son, to be able to tell us what needs to be done. So hopefully on the audience, I'm going to give a plug for the audience. Keep those comments coming through. They're very interesting. I'm reading through them, being distracted by them. Keep those comments coming in. Keep your questions coming in as well, because shortly we'll be going to questions as well, and any comments that people want to raise. Just staying with the issues in particular, we will move on to the solutions as you began there, Freddie, about what we're trying to do with the community and your joining the dots initiatives as well, because I love your line, Freddie, that no one person can solve all of this. No group of people can solve this. It's a collective movement that solves all of this, and being a pressure movement to get people knowledgeable on what the actual issues are. I mentioned about banks closing. Okay, because this is one of the big points that is often raised, especially with the elderly, especially with people who need that actual attention to their financial services as well. And let's take a vote then. Does it compound the problem completely? From you're saying, you're nodding at me, you're saying it completely can. I'm going to take that a little bit further then. Banks closing, to then AI suddenly coming in, artificial intelligence suddenly coming into the picture as well, where I know from where I've worked, where AI is coming into financial services, it's coming into embedded finance as well. We've got apps that can actually do payments straight away, go into Trainline. You don't have to contact your bank anymore. Card payments are taken. So it's accelerating and accelerating because fintechs, banks will be left behind, is the way they see it from their point of view. A few comments. How do you see it from your point of view? Let's go to yourself first, David. What do you think AI is now going to do for the people, as you've mentioned, are being frustrated by not being able to do the basics?
Well, obviously AI is the hot topic at the moment. And no doubt because of the speed with which it's just changing, it's going to remain so for a long time to come. I think on the whole, with appropriate controls and guardrails, then in the context of financial inclusion, then I think there is a place for AI to assist. However, it's quite clear from checking a gazillion AI chatbots that are out there that 99.9% of them seem to work on a set of specific questions. So if you ask the right question, you're likely to get an answer. If you ask something completely different, but it's relevant to your situation, then you're not going to get very far with that, and that becomes very, very frustrating. And so after 5 or 10 minutes with a chatbot, with an AI chatbot, if you're lucky, it might then say, "Oh, let me connect you to a live agent," and then you've got to start all over again. So I think there can be a place for AI. Certainly with bankability, we are developing a really unique and innovative approach to using ethical AI, because we're really out there to support people with accessibility challenges and to help them to hyper-personalize their experience. But in terms of mainstream, I would say it's definitely not there yet.
Great points, great points. So just to give you an example where I've seen AI being used in banking that's assisting. Um, of course, we've got the regulator that stops us from doing wholesale AI out there as much as the fast-moving goods industries can do it.
Yeah.
The examples that I've been seeing are transcriptions. When people speak to an agent, the transcriptions allow language to be understood a lot better and ability to be able to double check things as well. That's where I've seen it being used. The chatbots, of course, those are the most frustrating parts of banking. I found myself, who works for a bank, I find it incredibly frustrating to be sent off to a live agent after you've talked to a chatbot for a while. They need improving. Improvement happens with use, and the language model will start to improve as well. But
Yeah.
we're not completely there, but there is such an acceleration of the need to use AI. So it's a story of halves, really, where it can be used and it can't be used, and where we need to be able to accelerate it. It's accelerating for the haves at the moment, and it's not accelerating for the have-nots. That's very much the divide.
That's exactly right. And I would just add as well that from recent research for people with learning disabilities, that the biggest single thing that they that frustrated them and that they would like to be able to easily achieve is to be able to speak to someone who can assist them.
Yeah, yeah, human being.
Yeah.
An absolute human being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Great points. Anyone else, Freddie, Penny, anything more to add on the AI topic?
I'd just like to say that I think in this crazy but very clever world, why on earth don't companies and banks maybe find the budget to get the tech to do the heavy lifting? There's a heck of a lot of stuff out there that could easily make a lot of these transactions and experiences less painful and frustrating, but it's not brought in, it's not weaved into it. It's just sort of just we're so near yet so far. So that's why we're building what we're building, so we can actually get the tech to do the heavy lifting because it's out there.
Yeah, happy to also make a comment on behalf of the tech sector too, right? I think as a technologist, I have always been very excited about how technology can be a great enabler for businesses, for ourselves, to benefit from what technology can do to make our lives better, right? That is the intention, but you can see that sometimes it doesn't quite go that way, right? So regardless of that, we can be either in the camp of the naysayers who say everything is bad, so let's avoid it, or we can be the other camp where we say everything is fantastic, just keep doing it and ignore everybody else who are the naysayers. I think we need to take a more sort of a holistic and responsible approach. So as a technologist now, what I want my peers to be able aware of is that if you're not aware that this is an issue, then please pay attention. So the word responsible is key, right? Because now we hear more and more about responsible AI, right? So the technology itself is not the problem, it's how we use it. So it starts with people like technologists who are designing and implementing solutions. We got to take that responsibility, right? And now we have a chance. So the final thing I would say is that I would always look at it from the perspective of how technology can be for good, how technology can be an enabler. So I would do what I can to make sure that that is the outcome that we can achieve with whatever we put out there. So hopefully, we can all be biased about being in which camps, right? So at least now you know which camp I'm in.
Yeah, and just to build on that, great points from all areas. I think it's also about the governance as well. Being able to govern this in the right way with the right guardrails. I think, David, you mentioned that earlier on, that it's an enabler. AI is an enabler, but it needs the guardrails indeed. And I know that working in big tech, you always need to have a partner as well. No tech company goes forward and does something. It has to talk to a business partner, and it also has to have the full governance around what it does, especially in the banking sector as well. Just quickly touching, I know we've got 10 minutes left, and please do keep those questions coming. We've probably answered most of your questions. You've got some really good points about accessibility. Is also, I think, Freddie, you made this point, it's also about people who are lonely as well, and people of the elderly demographic as well, and the disabled demographic as well. So it's everyone has to be included in this as well. So looking at solutions, no one silver bullet is going to be a full solution for this, but there are fintechs out there, there are community programs out there, and I think this is an opportunity, Penny and Dave, for you to share with us what the main purpose and motive is for bank ability to be able to look at some possible solutions, and hopefully the community that's listening can also tune in and help you with your cause as well. So please, Penny, do you want to go
David,
first?
before you do what you do best, I'd just like to paint a little picture, which always helps in situations to actually pictorial explain what we're going to achieve. Okay, guys, imagine you see a caretaker outside some closed front doors of a school, and there's 10 steps going down from these closed front doors. They're locked, and it's been snowing overnight, so all the steps have snow on, okay? It's chaos. The kids can't get in school, everyone's freezing, but the diligent caretaker is sweeping the snow off the top step, doing a good job. But to the left of these steps, covered in snow, is a ramp, also covered in snow. And at the bottom of that ramp is a smart student, who's a wheelchair user, and he calls to the caretaker, "Excuse me, sir, if you just sweep off the snow off this ramp, we can all get in." And that's what we're doing, not just in banking, but in the digital world, to actually stop people having to use the steps. Just put a ramp in. It's timeless, it's much easier. And we're enabling that bridge for people to get through in a way that they feel comfortable and safe.
Understood. David, did you want to build on? Absolutely, Jess, I agree with Jess. And I have heard your analogy before as well, Penny. It's very emotive and it's really so simple to understand, and it works for it's for the collective, for all of us as well. David, did you want to just build on some of the tech and some of the solutions that you're
Yeah, sure.
working on?
So, so bankability is all about, as Ben said, enabling people to have who struggle or cannot use existing banking tech to be able to manage their finances. Now, how would we do this? So we it's all about hyper personalization, and I think how can we have the biggest impact in the shortest possible time? And that's for us to, as a relatively small fintech, to be able to work with existing players, the big banks, whether they are the high street banks, whether they're digital banks, challenger banks, whatever. But the point is, any bank with customers, statistically, you will have people who will have accessibility challenges. They may be disabled, they may be elderly, or it could be that somebody has challenges that they actually are not even aware of, but they just find things difficult. And so if you're not aware of something, you can't ask for something in terms of additional support. So where our tech is completely different to what is out there at the moment, is that we identify either with the support from each individual user, or we are able to identify through the behavior of that person specifically what their needs are, and needs will change over time. So whatever your needs are, even if they are no needs today, they can change, and so it's important to the value that we have, that we can provide as a something to integrate within existing banking solutions, is to provide those players with this solution that will enhance what they're already doing, but where it provides this hyper-personalized experience for each individual customer, and so it's, as you said earlier, there is no single silver bullet here. It will take time, and if something is, kind of like, one bank said to me, "Oh, well, we've got this sorted. We've got our own in-house development team, so we don't need to look at. We haven't got time to look at third-party solutions." Really? So this is not about, empire protection and all that other stuff that you quite often get in large companies. This is about what's the best outcome for the customer.
Absolutely. It's the total focus on the end user.
Yeah.
The customer is where this all begins. It begins with the customer and it ends
Yeah.
with the customer, is the mantra we were
Yeah.
always taught. And I really do think that the solutions that you're working on, they're coming from the heart as well, from those
Yeah.
lived experiences,
Absolutely.
because as we talked earlier, and as Freddie did as well, it's no good just blindfolding some of us and saying we're now disabled and we can feel and work exactly how visually impaired do or disabled people do it. It really need to educate and communicate. That's not the way people think and behave in proper solution building mode as well. So we are almost at time. I'm still waiting for some questions to come in. I can tell you there are some great comments coming in though. People are loving the analogy that you've used about the caretaker and the snowy ramp that needs clearing. Jess is doing a great job with keeping the comments going. Thank you, Jess, kindly. It's great to know that you're involved with digital inclusion in terms of helping educate and influence your business customers. We need more of that. We absolutely do. So hurrah for that. And also, Ronald has shared a very interesting point, because you talked about uh getting the kind of digital identity, getting yourself on board and logged in the first place. And Ronald's telling us that for multi-factor authentication he's using Ubi keys where possible. Must admit I don't know what Ubi keys are, so I have to educate myself on that. So this is what it's all about, and finds it a far simpler, easier and efficient method to get in. So loving all those comments that are coming in. Just before we're going to close, and hopefully you guys are thinking of questions now, cue the questions, audience, please. If we could have a call to action, let's call it a call to action, a very simple one-line call to action to solve, to forward, to progress this problem of digital exclusion with financial exclusion. What would it be? How do we solve this in a call to action? Starting with yourself first, Freddie, if you don't mind. What's your call to
Yeah,
action?
my simple answer is the world is too big. Nobody can do this on their own. It's about joining the dots. And one of my favorite, not just my favorite phrase, but it's also my co-director Recently, we just set up a tech sector consortium to help to address this issue. And our favorite phrase is that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So this is the question that everybody has asked themselves, right? If you're doing your own thing, go, fine. But if you want to solve this problem and you realize that this problem is too big for you to solve, you should be thinking that right now, right? If you're not, then please, right? Unless you are even the richest person on earth or the biggest country in the world, cannot solve all these problems that's been around for a long time, right? So it's about joining the dots, playing to the strength of the ecosystem. So this is another thing that the tech sector is bringing to the rest of the world, which is learn about how to become frenemies, be friends at the same time as be enemies. You can compete, nothing wrong with competition, but there are things that should not be a competition. So what can we do to play to our strengths and bring what we can to contribute and take what we need to benefit? Nothing wrong with that.
Amazing. It's all about the ecosystem, being part of a bigger collective,
That's
the
right.
ecosystem to contribute and also to take as well, to benefit as well. Give and take. Love that, Freddie. Thank you. Penny, what would be your call to action?
This is a big one. We just need, we need to keep working towards making the world more accessible for everyone and anybody. And then we'll have cracked it.
Absolutely.
Can I just add to what Penny says? What she says is really important. You know why? Because we may not think that today it affects us, but do you know what? That day will come.
Yeah. Well, we,
Yep.
any of us could unfortunately become
Yes.
disabled at any time.
Yes.
Probably not permanently, but a temporary basis. And that's when it's a real eye-opener into how ableist the world really is.
But it will happen just because of age, right? Whether we like
Yep.
it, whether I like it or not, my cognitive and physical abilities will be affected when I get to a certain point in my life. That's a fact.
Don't worry, Freddie. By the time that happens, we'll have bankability up and running for you.
I agree, you will. And it'd be helping me as well.
Yeah.
So,
We're talking months, though, for the launch, not years. So, you know.
fantastic. Really, really good. Really salient points there, Penny. Thank you. David, any build your call to action?
Yeah, this is a general one for anybody out there looking to provide a product or service or financial services, whatever it is. Involve people from the get-go with lived experiences. There's an expression that I use semi-often, but I'll use it here now from the disabled community, which is nothing about us without us. Okay, and so if you're looking to build something, if you're looking to design something, if you're looking to improve something, then involve the people, involve users who are going to benefit from this. Test, feedback, iterate, repeat.
Really like that. Really like that. We should. That's all going to be on the recording for us later to repeat back to ourselves. Very simple, and very much to the point as well. Thank you, David. We've had lots of comments. You've probably seen from the text in lots of comments there. An interesting point that Kelly raises is about dealing with elderly patients in terms of the financial accounts. It's an aspect where you've got exclusion, where banks are not making it easy for people, for POAs, to access accounts of people they are caring for. I've had to do that, and get power of attorney for my mother as well, to be able to do these things by having financial power of attorney to do those things. But you're absolutely right. I think it's very difficult to get access to other people's accounts. It's such a wide subject, the whole of financial inclusion is, that there are many, many areas that we can touch on. Any questions you've seen, Freddie, from the comments or anything that
So
resonated with
I
you?
want to pick up what you just said there. Financial inclusion is such a big topic. So this is a tricky question, right? The tricky question is, so which is bigger, financial inclusion or digital inclusion?
Hmm.
Digital.
Got to
Huh?
be digital because it's health, it's travel, it's everything.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, putting the joke aside, right, the point is that we need to be more aware of the fact that the things that we take for granted there are many others who are not able to. And what are we going to do about it, right? So the digital world is not binary. I mean, just I think last month or recently, we did a webinar about, supporting older people for that reason, because the narrative cannot be that we are now switching just to a completely digital world. Please remember that is not true, right? We are still a physical world with digital assisting us, not the other way around. We're not living in the digital world where physical people just happens to be there, right? So let's not get it wrong, yeah.
That's a really good point, Freddie, that this whole webinar is about helping those people who cannot, are the wrong side of the digital divide, is how I should put it. They're falling down that crack. And in doing so, they're falling behind on financial inclusion as well. And I totally agree. Digital inclusion is the biggest sphere of which financial inclusion fits inside a part of that sphere. Because when we think about, we'll talk about this on another webinar, I'm sure, about if you're not online, you don't have access to opportunities. And those opportunities are financial opportunities, and they're also about educational opportunities as well. How do you find yourself a job if everything is on LinkedIn, everything is online? How do you get yourself access to the better products, financial products, if they're saying the digital product is the best thing for you at the moment? Ah, but you haven't got an email address, you're not online. So we're totally excluding people. And the more we make noises about this, the more people are having to listen to what is happening here. So we've only scraped the top of the iceberg on this. I'm just going to see if there's any more questions before we finish off. I think we've covered all the areas, and we are at time now as well, thankfully. Any closing remarks I'd like to say, which are, we've talked about how financial inclusion is a human right. It's about having simple services that benefit everyone. And also, to close on your words, Freddie, it's all about no one person can solve this on our own. We have to be able to look at tech as being the enabler for this, but to bring in partners and other people, the experts with those lived experiences that can bring this all together. So, Freddie, if it's okay with you, I think we've got no questions coming in further. Then we're able to close. And firstly, I'd like to thank my panelists here today, to yourself, Freddie, to yourself, Penny, and to David for making it a very exciting and enthralling conversation.